Welcome back. It's the Hoffman Show. We are not on the Team 980, but we will be soon. Waiting for Maryland basketball to wrap up their season, coming to an end against Wisconsin. So we are live on YouTube right now at the Team 980, and we are also live at Craig Hoffman. If you missed the very start of the show, here is how this is going down with us not being on the radio quite yet. We are simulcasting, a little preview, if you will, of what the live show actually looks like if you are a subscriber or watching currently on my page at Craig Hoffman. When we go live on the radio, we are ending the feed. And you can, if you want to keep watching on YouTube, you can, just like you can every single day at the Team 980. So if you're not subscribed and or you want to go ahead and switch over now so your feed is uninterrupted, or do that in the next commercial break, highly recommend doing that. So we are live on the Team 980 all 3 hours of the show every single day. So all the way till 7 o'clock tonight. And then on at Craig Hoffman, we'll post the highlights and everything as usual, but the live streaming version of this will end coming up at, well, whenever we go live on the radio. We don't know exactly when that is going to be yet. Maryland and Wisconsin, I think, is wrapped now, but we still got the post-game show, and they're wrapping up the season on the Maryland Sports Network, et cetera, et cetera. So off we continue, and we'll get to some comments here in a second. I was perusing some of them in the break, and some of y'all are really happy, and some of y'all are oddly angry, which is kind of the nature of things on the internet, I guess. But at the end of the day, Sam Howell gets traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Great move, I think, for Washington. They didn't add any picks, but they added another top 90 pick, which is huge in this particular draft, as we just talked about over the last 15 minutes or so. But I will say to the people who are howling, literally and figuratively, in the comments, I get it. This feels very unfair and unjust for Sam. Sam Howell's a talented football player. I think Sam Howell can be a starting quarterback in this league. And that is not me being stubborn about my opinion on him in the middle of the year, where I thought he was clearly on path to be the starter of the future. But it's because I saw what it was. Like, the flashes of good are tremendous. And I think that he was coached horrendously last year. And specifically, I think he was coordinated horrendously last year. Obviously, he was coached well enough that the new staff got here and was like, Tavita Pritchard, quarterback coach, let's keep him around. Very highly thought of. And I think a lot of the good stuff that happened for Sam is clearly given to Tavita. And the bad stuff that happened on Sam, narrative-wise, is put on EB. I don't know how fair that is in totality. That seems obscene, that everything good was the responsibility of one coach and everything bad was the other. But I can tell you, as a play caller, the gigantic responsibility of that. Eric Bieniemy failed Sam Howell in a way that was so spectacular, I just didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it was possible for an OC to take a quarterback who has a sack problem, which Sam does and did, and I would say more so did. He got better at it as the year went, to his credit. Other issues arose, but that got better. And drop him back in pure drop back progression passing more than any other quarterback in the league. I mean, he wound up with one more attempt than Mahomes, I think, by the end of last year. That's obscene. How could you possibly think that that is a good idea? It is so overexposing, so under supporting a young player at any position, nevertheless that position. And so for those of you that are like, I'm upset because I think Sam could be good, I get it. I actually truly understand that feeling, because there is a huge piece of me, and that piece is called curiosity, that wants to know, that wants to see in, by the way, an offense that I think fits Sam really well. Theoretically, what Cliff does, a lot of down the field passing, vertical passing game. Sam's got a good arm, throws a good deep ball. He's got some mobility, can get out on the edge. You know, he's not afraid to sit back there, but hopefully with a lot more easy throws than what he was given last year. And see what happens. But here's the catch. Here's why I love this move. Because it's not Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury's responsibility to find out. It's not their responsibility to find out how good Sam Howell is. Their job is to do what's best for the Washington Commanders. And what's best for the Washington Commanders is to, instead of taking a flyer on this 5th-round pick that definitely showed he's better than a guy who went in the 1st round in Mac Jones, who might not even be an NFL quarterback, to show that he's better than another guy who went in the 1st round, maybe in Kenny Pickett, who's, probably the closest guy in that draft class to having made some inroads of being a decent player so far, but he just got replaced by Russell Wilson. Instead of taking this flyer and seeing if it could work, they're going to take the number 2 pick, use their scouting abilities, use their coaching abilities, reset the clock. Because here's the other thing about Sam. He's now played 2 years. Everyone's like, oh, he was basically a rookie, except for the contract. Contract was real. Contract years told. He's after this year in a lame duck year and probably looking for an extension if he were to start again and play well. And so instead of dealing with all of that and taking that gigantic risk, when you have, in the eyes of many, an incredibly rich crop of quarterbacks and the number 2 pick, you start over. It's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, we don't need to overthink this. Now, are there other alternative paths they could theoretically take? Sure. They could have said, we're gonna run it back with Sam and we're gonna give him Marvin Harrison Jr. or Joe Alt or whatever, and we're gonna build the team. And if Sam's good, then we won the lottery, and if he's not, then we'll probably be in this position again next year. But at least we'll have hopefully a future Hall of Famer that we drafted at 2 this year. You could have done that, but that's not really how you're wanting to start the rebuild. And so you go sign a veteran, Marcus Mariota, who I thought was great today when he met with the press. We'll probably play some clips of that a little bit later in the show. But Mariota said, like, if I'm called upon to start, I'll be ready to start. If I'm called on to be a mentor, I'm ready to mentor, which is what I want to hear from my backup veteran quarterback. That he understands it's not about him. That it is truly about this number 2 pick. And at this point in his career, like, hey, Marcus, you had a good run. It's time for you to usher in the next generation. So you make that move. And I would tell you as the fans the same thing that I just said about Mariota. It's not about Marcus Mariota. Just like this would have never been about Sam Howell. If Sam stayed and was the starter this year because Drake May or Jaden Daniels wasn't ready and Howell beat out Marcus Mariota, he's still just biding time for that guy to be ready. So you can instead get someone who's going to help the other guy and help your team at pick 78. Cool. Let's do that instead. And if Marcus Mariota comes in and let's say something wacky happens. Let's say Geno Smith pulls a hamstring in training camp. Sam Howell plays for Seattle. And Marcus Mariota winds up starting here because the number 2 pick isn't ready yet. And Mariota plays like dog you know what. I guess I could have really said it because we're on the internet. Anyway, I'm gonna stay in character here as a radio host because our show will be broadcasting live on the radio soon. But Marcus Mariota plays like dog you know what, and Howell plays great. Doesn't matter. It's not about those guys. It's about Jaden Daniels. It's about Drake May or whoever else they wind up taking at quarterback with that number 2 pick. And thus, you get what you can for everything else at that position. You surround that position with the best that you can, which is a veteran mentor, which they got in Mariota, which they believe is the right guy. I think that is up for debate, but also, it's all about who will come here too. Jacoby Brissett, I doubt wanted to come back. And I understand that. And so that's what this is about. It's not about Sam. The part that's about Sam, I'm super curious. I wish him nothing but the best. I liked watching him work. I liked watching him try to problem solve. I wish he did a better job. So does he. Did he get screwed by the coaching? Yeah, I think he did. I think coaching was terrible last year. Awful. Inexcusably bad, to be frank. And yet, it was good enough to get a 3rd-round pick in return for the Commanders as they really move up pick swap style, both moving up from 102 to 78 and moving up from 179 to 152 in the upcoming NFL draft, where they hopefully can find some more starters and a couple of special teamers with those later picks and continue to rebuild this roster in the way that Adam Peters wants to, which I think a lot of us trust based off his track record, to be pretty darn good within the next couple of years.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.